welcome to a live Kerfefe Break on Deprogrammed with Keri Smith. I'm your host, Keri, and I'm very excited. Today, we're just going to do a fun, maybe short, maybe a little short episode, hang out and talk with my husband, who's going to be here. We're rushing because we're getting ready to go out of town, and he's got a tour. He's doing a European tour. He's playing some dates in Germany, Switzerland, Amsterdam. I'll let him tell you all about it. He's going to be here shortly. And he has a new album out he's going to talk about a little bit. And we're just going to hang out and have fun because I love having like the most special guest ever, my husband, Anthony Garcia Music. You can find his channel below, which is, of course, all music. Yeah, that's what's happening. Hey, people. Hey, familiar people. So I wonder how many of you guys were either at or saw footage from the Let Women Speak rally this past weekend on Saturday in Austin. Michelle Evans did an amazing job organizing it, organizing security, bringing in speakers, and we were there at Austin Pride was happening at the same time, which is crazy because I thought it happened in June, right? Don't they all happen in June? And I looked it up and I found several articles and websites that were like, hey, here's 10 Pride events for Austin the month of June, like even like parade type things. But they would say, but these aren't the official Pride. That's coming in August. Basically, they've just decided they're going to do Pride every month in Austin. Like, just keep going. So that was funny because that was happening the same day. And of course, a lot of protesters came out. They referred to us as a merry band of bigots. And there was some footage. I put a short video clip up. Oh, I guess I should put it on this YouTube channel, but I did put it on Instagram and Twitter just to show you. I mean, that these people are not serious. Here, I wonder if I can show you this while we're waiting for Anthony. I'll just pull it up. Many of them, as you've seen in a lot of the footage of protests like this with people from the left, many of them are absolutely hateful, almost behave almost as if they're possessed. They have angry outbursts. They scream profanities. They don't make any rational sense. They're unable to control themselves, to restrain themselves like adults should be able to do. They let their emotions completely possess them, their anger completely possess and animate them. And it's pretty shocking and freaky. And I think it's really important to remember. I've gotten used to seeing footage like this. I see a lot of it online now. Billboard Chris has a lot of footage like this, doing what he does. And so we can sometimes become sort of used to it, and we think, oh, it's desensitized to it maybe. But it's really important to see it because I think a lot of people who are in that woke cult, they don't see it. It's important for them to see it. They don't see it, or it's not as likely to show up in their feed. And so I think you just keep exposing it. You keep putting sunlight on it. You keep showing it. Because one of the things that helped to wake me up from the woke world was seeing footage like this of crazy people engaging in violence, attacking Trump supporters, like bloodying them, chasing them down and scaring them. Like that kind of stuff that emotionally grabs people. That's what helps wake people up. So I do think it's important. And the protesters seem to be getting worse. Like they seem to be getting crazier, more detached from reality. We were very fortunate. We had a lot of security and there was nothing turned violent. But these people are absolutely crazy. Here, right before Anthony gets here, just let me show you. Yeah. Here. I wonder if you can see this. Can you guys see this?
I'm a little teapot, short and stout.
I should turn the music off in case we get a copyright strike. I just added little teapot music because they kind of remind me of, when I get all steamed up, hear me shout. It's kind of like they get really steamed up. This lady on the left, she screamed in Michelle Evans' face. I took video of that, calling her a B word and saying she's a man, whereas the guy on the right saying he's a woman, just crazy. And yeah, that's kind of what they do, and they just scream the whole time. And there were 3 people who talked to me. People asked what the interactions were like. There was a group of 3. They talked with me. They yelled, talked at me, but at least they talked. They listened to me and they answered my questions. And they were basically saying, "You guys all hate trans people." I'm like, "That's not true for everyone here. I'm not gonna speak for everyone, but I don't." And, you know, my miraculous medallion, one of my trans friends gave me this. Like, you don't know me, you protesters, you don't know us. And then one guy said, "Well, what's this about for you?" I'm like, "For kids. You should not be mutilating and sterilizing children. And once you become an adult, do whatever you want." I have my own opinions about some of that, but in terms of legality, it's different. But with children, they're not able to make these decisions. And all 3 of these protesters, I'm not kidding, they're not aware. They don't know anything. Yet they're animated to be out there on the street and protest. All 3 of them were like, "That doesn't happen. Nobody surgically transitions kids. Nobody medically transitions kids." I was like, are you for real? Like, it happens everywhere. We just banned it here in Texas, but and Norway, Sweden, and Finland have now banned it, and there are several states banning it or trying to ban it. But it happens all over the US. We have not banned it as a country yet. It is happening. And they were like, "That's not true." And I'm like, "We just had 2 detransitioners here on the microphone speaking. You're not listening to them, of course. You're out here screaming." One of these girls just had both breasts removed at the age of 15. She's here. She just spoke. And they're like, I mean, they're not living in reality. They're like, I'm like, are you going to deny her very existence? Like, that's one of their phrases, right? You're denying she just spoke. Her breasts were removed at 15. You're trying to say this doesn't happen. She's suing. She's suing the hospital. Why don't you listen to the people you're here to protest? Maybe you'd learn something. Crazy. Anyway, that was kind of what it was like this weekend. Okay. My husband is here. He's waiting in the backstage area. Like I said, we're just going to hang out and have fun today, guys. Thank you for hanging out with us. Please welcome, if you're new here. You may not have met my husband before. I have had him on an interview once before on my birthday. It was awesome. Please welcome my husband, Anthony Garcia. Hello. You're live.
Am I on?
Yes.
Look what I randomly found. Just random.
I left those on your desk just in case.
Oh, really?
As a suggestion.
Well, that was not like a suggestion I'm going to take.
He's not going to take it. You guys, one of the things I really enjoy doing, I really love making you laugh, Anthony. And I think you really like making me laugh, don't you?
Yeah.
Yeah. And one of the ways I cheat to make him laugh is I will occasionally buy props. So he'll come home and Tiger will be in a new costume or there'll be glasses or something that's just like, what is this? Sorry, you might can hear my echo. Anyway, welcome to the show, Anthony. Tell people we're having a fun, chill show this morning, hanging out. You suggested doing this, which I'm so grateful because we have a lot of stress going on outside of the show, trying to get everything ready to leave for Europe. And before you got here, I was telling them some of the countries you're going to be playing in. Do you want to tell people, if they're interested, a little bit about where you're going to be and what you're doing, what your band's doing?
Yeah. Can you hear me okay?
Yep.
Okay, cool. So we're starting out in Munich, first of all, and we're going to be visiting my friend, a friend of mine, Titus. He's a German musician who plays a lot of country music, Western swing music. He's a really talented person. We're going to be staying with him for a week and playing some gigs there. Our drummer and my drummer and bass player will be there that week. And from there, we head down to Switzerland, to Zug, Switzerland, which is pretty near. I guess the nearest town would be Zurich. Excuse me. It's right between Zurich and Lucerne. And then our violinist Megan will be joining us on that, and we're playing a festival, and then we're playing 2 other shows there. Then the rest of the band leaves, and then Keri and I go back to the Black Forest in Germany, where we're going to stay with my friend, and we have I have 4 gigs there, and then we're going all the way up to Amsterdam for a couple of days and a couple of gigs up there. That's what we're doing.
Oh, sorry, I was muted.
Yeah.
I said we're going to hang out a little bit after that. And thank you very much, Robert. Give it up for Robert, one of our mods in the chat. He's got your calendar here for anyone who's in any of those countries or near any of the places Anthony's going to be playing. You can come and hang out. Oh, yeah. People were asking about your background. It was a virtual background, right?
Yeah. That's my new studio, guys. This is really the house that Keri wants to be living in.
That is not the house I want to be living in. That's a joke.
Tell everybody what you say now it's just a joke when we're driving down the road. I'm like, what about that? What is it? That neighborhood there. Would you like to live in that neighborhood? The cookie cutter neighborhood. You're like, that looks like the kind of place where I would become an alcoholic, pop pills, and what do you say?
And that looks like a good place for your husband to have an affair while you become an alcoholic and a pill addict who kills
the other women
in the bathtub one day. Like that, I just don't. I'm sorry. It's super. I don't like the houses that all look the same, even if they're nice. Like there's all these rich housing developments going up in Austin, but some of them, like all the houses look exactly the same. It's like 1, 2, 3, there's something about the conformity that makes my soul sick and makes me think of communism.
I do want that piano though. That piano back there.
In your virtual background?
Yeah.
That's a pretty cool piano. I will say. And I like that fireplace actually. I'm not too critical. I like this space, but no, I need a little more character if I'm in a place every day, a little more character. I love your music. This is your actual studio room.
Yeah, this is the actual studio room. There's stuff all over I should move that stuff.
Somebody asked, first of all, thank you, Laura, for becoming a new member. Welcome. I should have said up front, if you like hanging out with us on Mondays and Fridays, if you like the interviews, the pop culture show, etc., if you want to support the channel, we do have YouTube memberships. You can also become a member. You can pledge even $1 a month, helps out. Subscribe to our Patreon, Locals, those are other places to support, and I really appreciate it. JR asked, where in Munich will you be playing?
Well, I don't know off the top of my head all the places, but there's one place, I wonder if JR lives there, but the one place that we're really wanting to get people to go to is Sunday night on the 20th, and it's a place called the Rattlesnake Saloon, and it'll be the full band with my friend Titus, who lives there, and he's going to play fiddle with us. So that place is pretty awesome place. It's like it's an old saloon. It's like you're stepping back into Texas or something like that. And we're just doing a show that night there. So that's the place we're trying to get most people to. The other places are kind of like outdoor garden, cafe, beer garden kind of places where there's already going to kind of be people there. But,
he says, I know it, a landmark in Munich. I wonder if you're there. JR, send us a message if you're there. You can email me at deprogrammedpod@gmail.com. That's one of the things I'm doing before we fly out. I'm checking all those emails because I know some of you have emailed me there. I will be getting back to people. If you're in any of these places and want to meet up, I'd love to meet you. But shoot us an email if you have a second, JR.
But I'd like to say about the Rattlesnake Saloon is that it's so there's quite a rockabilly kind of Western swing / country kind of underground in Munich, and that's my friend Titus is a big part of that. He's huge involved into that, and as you know, and So the Rattlesnake Saloon is sort of maybe like, I guess, this one of the centers of that kind of, culture, subculture that's happening over there. And they even have their own internet radio station. It's really cool. They play great old country, classic country, Western swing, all the way back to Bob Wills, even before that. And so if y'all are looking to listen to that radio station, it's really great. It's Rattlesnake Saloon, I believe, .de. And they do live radio, and right from a separate room that's located in the same location on the same property. But it's cool. It reminds me of the Broken Spoke in Austin, which is also an institution here. It's been around since I think the 60s, and it's just it's the only single story that the Broken Spoke seems to be like the only single story building left in that its own little kind of neighborhood, because everything else has been torn down and built up by rich developers who are kicking out the poor people who won't sell their land. Does that sound familiar? Does that sound like anything that's
That
happening now?
sounds like maybe like what's happening in Hawaii. In Hawaii, pretty soon.
Well, everywhere.
Anthony, look, thank you so much, Poetry Painter. $25. That's so kind. Thank you she says this is for coffee and pastry in Europe. So I have to share it with Anthony. I'm kidding. Thank you so much. I know I'm going to be having lots of, what is it? Coffee and Kuchen?
Yeah.
Cafe and Kuchen.
Kaffee und Kuchen.
Cafe and Kuchen. Anthony actually speaks German. I don't. And last time we were there, he was trying to teach me a little bit. I had to immediately learn the words for coffee and cake. Are you coming to the UK, says Linda? Not on this trip, but I'm definitely coming sometime in the next year. That's what I would like to do. The UK and Ireland. The UK, there's so many people I'd like to see there. And I know several people in our Deprogrammed community are in the UK. So I will let you know when that happens. This is cool. Look, a couple people mentioned this. John says, Keri, do you or Anthony have any thoughts on Oliver Anthony? And AH, speaking of rockabilly, thoughts on the viral song and Ginger Singer, Anthony Oliver. I love it. If you guys haven't seen it yet, we should put up the one that just a little bit of the part that went viral. His voice, it kind of makes me think of Hank Williams Jr. If you haven't seen this guy who's a factory worker and farmer just uploaded this song. Actually, I think it was a radio station in West Virginia uploaded it. He's from Virginia. They uploaded the song. It went super viral. And the interesting thing about it is, and good for him, I saw he just did a live show after he gained all this popularity, and he packed it. There were cars, like a line of cars to get in. And before he sang, he read a Bible verse about the wicked. And this guy, I like his faith. I like that he's just singing authentically. He's not trying to play any kind of gimmick. And he also, I saw that he's just been sober like 30 days or something, very new to sobriety. So if you are a believer, pray for this dude that he maintains his sobriety, because with all this attention can come a lot of temptation. Do you know what I mean? And sometimes when you're starting to do great, as a believer anyway, I believe sometimes when you're doing great and you're speaking, you're following the path God wants you to follow, that sometimes you can kind of get the devil will come after you. That's my belief anyway. So say a prayer for this guy if you like it. If you haven't seen it, I'm just going to play a little bit of it. Here we go.
People like you wish I could just wake up and it not be true, but it is. Oh, it is. Living in the new world with an whole soul. These rich men north of Richmond, Lord knows they all just want to have total control. Want to know what you think Wanna know what you do, and they don't think you know, but I know that you do, 'cause your dollar ain't shit, and it's taxed to no end, 'cause the rich men, 'cause the rich men.
So yeah, I love it. I got chills. I think it's a modern day protest song. What do you think about it, Anthony?
I think it's like the positive things about it are, you know, obviously what the message that's coming through, and the message that he's illustrating and portraying. It's you know, seeing that become popular very quickly is, you know, I think it's encouraging to a lot of people. I think that also seeing someone with that message who's actually playing an instrument, which is not so common nowadays, is also very encouraging to a lot of people. I think it's also very it illustrates, or it tells it's very telling that in a similar way that what is it called, that movie that just came out, Sound of Freedom. The Sound of Freedom came out, and then the Jason Aldean single went to #1. It's telling that there's a hunger, or there's a desire for this kind of, you know, this kind of medium, this kind of music, this kind of perspective in art nowadays. There's that. So there's the message. People have a hunger for it. It's, you know, it's evident. You know, it's there. And he's also playing a live instrument and singing live, and he probably didn't have any auto tune on that recording, which is also, sadly,
Awesome.
that is also very important. That is also a criteria today. That used to be sort of a given, that people played their own instruments and sang without auto tune, but it's not so common now in popular music that becomes popular to a larger group of people.
Yeah.
So those are the two positive things, I think. Whether or not you agree with his message, that's beside the point. That's, you're seeing someone come with that message, with that point of view, with a Christian conservative point of view. Although his message is a bottom-up message, not necessarily a right-left message. There is some right, left, but it is a bottom-up message. And go ahead.
And isn't that interesting? Because afterwards, I told you that we were talking about this. I don't like that song. It doesn't say you know, Richmond, north of Richmond, which is a clever phraseology. You know, he's talking about people in DC, politicians. He doesn't say rich Democrats north of. He's not calling out one party above the other. In fact, and I went and looked at his album. He has songs that say, you know, like a lot of what I believe. He's like, both parties are crap.
Yeah.
I mean, he has criticisms. Maybe they're a little slightly different for each party, but criticisms for both, which is great because he's not just a tribalist. That song is not meant, it's for everyone. It's what you talk about, Anthony. Instead of fighting this way on the horizontal, it's fighting on the vertical. But because that song, that kind of message, if it has the power to unite people along the vertical to fight the elite powerful structures, they have to try and force it into the tribalism thing. And so this headline, Rolling Stone, which is so embarrassing now. Rolling Stone tried to do that. A lot of outlets tried to do that. They immediately called it right wing. They immediately tried to scare people on the left away from listening to it, and they're like, here's the headline in Rolling Stone: right wing influencers just found their favorite new country song. And then, you know, they're just trying to. And now, if you're a person on the left, you read that and you're like, oh, I saw that going viral. I'm not gonna listen to it because I've been told it's right wing, right? That's what happens today. Is like, anyway, I didn't mean to interrupt you, but you're saying you said it's like a bottom up message,
a bottom up fight. You know, basically, he's kind of just speaking to the common man, the blue collar worker, the average person in the United States, just trying to make, you know, in the world, really trying to make ends meet. But I think on another level, like an artistic level for him and on a personal level for him, you know, I'm wondering a couple of things. So I've read that he's gotten approached because of the quick popularity of the song, that he's gotten approached by some producers and things like that. And it'll be interesting to see what happens. I hope that he has somebody with some experience surrounding him so that he doesn't get maybe exploited or, doesn't, something terrible doesn't happen to his music. And also I wonder if he has other songs. I wonder if he is, if writing is something that's really important to him, or if he kind of just wrote this for fun. If he would be following this up, what kind of music he'd be following it up with.
I listened
what
to
ki-
his album. He does have a whole
oh, he does
album.
have an album. Okay. I
Yeah,
didn't know.
yeah. And
Okay.
what was interesting is, I didn't tell you about that yet. Given that he's only something like recently past 30 days sober. The album I listened to, I think there might be more than one, but the one I listened to, there were a bunch of songs on there about drinking.
Mhm.
About I mean, I think there's one called "I've Gotta Stop Drinking," you know? And there's a lot of lyrics on the other ones about drowning his sorrows, and he was at that stage, I think, in that album of recognizing it was a problem, but not being able to walk away. You and I both know that. We've both been through that stage, like, where it's like a not tomorrow, Satan. Like, where we make that joke where it's like, I'm gonna keep like St. Augustine, where he's like,
Yeah.
Lord, make me pure, but not quite yet. Like when you've gotten to where you want the new heart, you want the change of behavior, but you're not quite ready to let go of that bad, toxic habit or relationship or whatever it is yet. You know what I mean?
I also think too that I agree with that, and maybe he'll take this as some kind of a sign that he's supposed to, that this is the path that he's supposed to go down, a positive path. I mean, whether or not you believe in God, or you believe in the universe, or you believe in allowing, what fate gives you, accepting what fate gives you, then all those things, it doesn't matter really which path you're on. Hopefully he sees this as some kind of a sign that what he's doing, the sobriety for 30 days in the positive direction that he's taking now, that this is he's stepping towards something good. Like,
Yes.
what is it called? Joseph Campbell, what he says, follow your bliss. When you follow your bliss, the doors of opportunity will open to you. Hopefully he sees that. I think that also the other thing too is that it's positive and it's great that this guy that he's doing what he's doing. It's good to see, again, like I said, an example of someone with this perspective, some right wing, whatever you want to call them, someone with a perspective that's speaking for the little man is getting some notoriety or getting some attention. I just think that people need to be careful not to make a hero out of him, because what happens is, we all know what happens when you make heroes out of people.
And they tear him down later.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, or he might have some character flaw that lets everyone else down. That's gonna, taint his message. And, of course, just, I think it's great. I mean, it's cool. It's cool that he came out and did this.
He's just human, and he's going to probably disappoint you in one of his views at one point. I remember when Jordan Peterson said something a couple years ago about Kavanaugh that many people disagreed with, including me. I disagreed with it, but I didn't I didn't beat my chest and rip my hair out like, oh, I disagreed with Peterson on something the way some people did. They were like, I'm done with him. He's a phony, like they had turned him into a god, and he's just human. I had a question for you from the chat.
Okay.
Matt Deckard, are you getting into Western swing?
I mean, I've kind of, not lately, but I've kind of always, I don't want to say I've always been into it, but it's not something that I just discovered. I mean, I've kind of known about Western swing for some time. I mean, especially growing up in West Texas, I've known about all Bob Wills and all the Western swing kind of stuff.
And you play quite a bit of Western swing during your live shows, depending on who you're playing with. Like when you play with Titus, you guys do a lot more Western swing.
Oh yeah, we do.
Depending on who the other people are, and what the show is. Yeah, I love Western swing. Also, Matt Deckard carries your hat on backwards. Yes. Of course, you would be the one to notice that because I know you sell hats, or you have sold hats in the past. I've been wearing it backwards on purpose because it's all been out of shape in the front, and it looks better this way. Only you could tell. No one else knows. Anthony didn't even know it's on backwards. He's calling me out. Okay. I want you to talk about just quickly your album. So I am so proud of you. I'm sorry. It's hard to do two roles as the host of the show and also your wife, and it'll get a little mushy. But I'm so proud of how you really worked your butt off on this record, and
Mhm.
actually 2 records. There's another one that's not out yet, but another one with a lot of your original songs that have vocals that's going to be coming out soon. But this one you had been talking about for a while. It's really impressive to me because you would say like, "Oh, I have this song in my head. I just haven't recorded it yet." And not being a musician, I think those of us in the audience who are not musicians, it's mind blowing. Like, what do you mean you have it written in your head? Almost like Alexander Solzhenitsyn supposedly had the whole book, the Gulag
Mhm.
Archipelago, written in his head while he was in a prison camp, and then when he got out, he could just write it because it was all here.
Mhm.
So anyway, this album is called Moonlight. You can get it at anthonygarciamusic.com. It's on all streaming platforms, and also here on YouTube. I think you put 2 of the tracks up, right?
Mhm. There's 3 of them on there, and I'm gonna keep putting more up. But it's on basically Spotify, iTunes, and Amazon, and Pandora, and all of those. And those are
Tell
probably the best way to get access to it. I mean, I'm not going to be able to mail a physical copy right now because we're going to be gone for 5 weeks. But so those are the best ways to listen, and YouTube, of course, on my YouTube page. What were you going to say?
But tell people about the album, like what kind of music it is, because it's a little different than your
Okay.
last album.
Okay, so this album is what I would call a guitar album. It's something that's in the Spanish style of like solo guitar album, basically. So, um, if you let's say, if for example, I'll give you some artist examples. Like if anyone is into, like, let's say I'm not a flamenco guitarist, but let's just say you are into flamenco Spanish style of guitar playing, it would be something along the lines of like Paco de Lucia. Um, or even like the Buena Vista Social Club. They're Cuban, but something along those lines, almost like world music type of style. And so that would be the kind of style of music. There's also a couple of tracks on there that are so completely solo. So the one side of the tracks are like there's like 3 or 4 tracks that are acoustic guitar with bass and percussion that I played all the instruments on the album. And so it sounds like a band is playing basically, and I'm playing over it. And then with the solo guitar, then there are some tracks that are completely solo classical guitar pieces that I've written that are kind of in the style of like the old Italian masters, like the South American classical masters. Again, not claiming to be that, but it's just my homage to that. And then I have a piece at the very, very end that would be sort of like a T-Bone Walker kind of like guitar, just like an electric guitar solo instrumental piece. So it's like a distorted guitar, but it's sort of kind of like an instrumental. It's not a classical piece or a Spanish piece. It's actually sort of almost like a blues or a Western style, kind of like, Cormac McCarthy, sort of like a soundtrack sort of style, Western style guitar. Is what those are the basic styles of the guitar. There is some singing on it. There are 2 tracks with singing on it that are traditional Mexican songs, Spanish songs, but the rest of it is instrumental. So there are 8 tracks. 6 of them are instrumental Spanish guitar, and then the 2 of them are with vocals in Spanish. So
I want to put this up just so people can hear it. Now it's going to be distorted because when you play music from a YouTube channel on a YouTube live stream, it's always sounds a little distorted. So if you want to hear it better, go to his actual channel. It's Anthony Garcia Music. But here.
this track is like 8 minutes long.
I
It
know.
really gets towards the end. Fast forward just a little bit to the end, like where it gets kind of like better, like even farther. Yeah, about there.
Hey, Nick is here. Hey, Nick Weiser.
But yeah, there's piano on it too, just for a little bit.
Okay, so you guys can go hear the rest of it. Like you said, that one's 8 minutes long. It's pretty amazing. Somebody we lost Keri to the music. Well, that song makes me want to dance because you do percussion in it, you do piano in it, and the guitar, and it's like it just sounds like it's like one of those songs that you know in your bones, even if you've never heard it before. You're like, I know this song. Like your body knows this song. It wants to dance to it. Pirate Tomsky, thank you for the super chat. 25 lira. Lira,
25.
if you don't know, are
British
English
lira.
pounds. British lira. I'm joking. Pirate, thank you. He says, happy travels. This is to help you with the food prices in Europe. Oh my goodness. Pirate, I've been meaning to tell you. I think I did tell you, but now Anthony's here. Guess what we're watching, Pirate? We're watching the show you've been suggesting forever. We're watching Deadwood. And I'm really enjoying it so far. I know it's kind of an older show. If you guys haven't seen it, Pirate's been talking it up for a couple years. It's an old West show, and it's got some real characters in it, like Wild Bill Hickok and Calamity Jane, and very engaging. What do you think of it?
Me?
Yeah.
Oh, it's great. I love it. As you know, we keep watching it, and like then there's another episode that comes on. We have to make ourselves stop watching it. It's great. I love it.
At first I didn't like Calamity Jane's the way they were portraying her, and now I love it. I can't get enough of it. She's just completely foul-mouthed and just over the top, but at the same time she's this real teddy bear inside. She's so fragile. That's why she's such a beast on the outside, because she's just so afraid of being hurt. And that I don't know who that actress is, but it's pretty. I love that character. It makes me laugh every time she's on screen. Let's see. So a couple of questions for you about. John says it ends abruptly but good. Did you mean the song? I just ended the song, or do you mean the show? Don't tell me anything about the show. I have a couple questions for you, Anthony, if you don't mind, before we go.
No, of course not.
Okay. John says, Keri, can Anthony quickly go over his musical background and education?
Yeah. So I started very young with the piano when I was about 7, and I started on guitar when I was 12. And when I started with them, that means they were just, both of those instruments were just in my life. They were around the house, and I just kind of would pick out songs as a kid on them. And I learned guitar. All this is by ear, and then just by kind of like picking around. From the age I was 12 to the time I was like 19, I got really into like heavy metal and rock and stuff like that. So I played in a lot of rock bands, I grew up in the 80s and the 90s. So it was a lot of like metal, hard rock, and then of course like grunge stuff later. When I got to be 18 years old and I started going to college, I decided I wanted to study music, but I didn't know how to read. I didn't know anything about reading music. So it was very difficult for me. And so I went to college and I learned how to read music. I'm still not very good at it, but I learned, and I studied piano properly for 4 years with my piano teacher, who was a pedagogy teacher, who's taught me technique and how to use my body to play the piano, and how to make sure that I would play without injury, and how to teach others how to play without achieving injury. Because when you're playing, any sport, but when you're playing an instrument too, it's easy to be injured because you have a lot of very small muscles that you're using to create sound. And if you use them the wrong way, and including singing too, you can also do that. There's a lot of ways that you wouldn't really necessarily think that you could incur injury, but you can do that in playing piano. So I'm very thankful to her that she taught me how to properly play the piano, because it made me think about a bunch of things musically in general, from that
Like
perspective.
how to physically do your hands and everything so that you're not getting from repetitive
Right.
movement, injuring yourself.
So for example, it's like kind of like when you're typing, if your hands are idle, if you're, it's like wrist position, and if you're typing like this all day, you're really engaging a lot of muscles here and putting a lot of tension on certain muscles, as opposed to relaxing your arm and using the weight of your arm, the weight of your body to create a sound, as opposed to like muscle. um it's very like, what is it, kung fu, very Bruce Lee, kind of like you move,
Yeah.
don't be where your opponent is, and be, it's kind of like that. It's sort of a very Zen
Be
way of
water.
looking. Right. It's being very Zen about playing piano, and of course listening to your body. It's a lot like yoga too, like listening to your body, being aware if there's of tension or any pain, not playing through pain, those kinds of things. So anyways, I ended up, as a kid, learning by ear, relying on my just natural talent. And then I refined it in college, and I spent a lot of time breaking down everything that I thought I knew, kind of pushing that away and diving deep into what I didn't know. And then after college, I've kind of relied on both of them. It's sort of a back and forth between relying on your strength, pushing your strength aside, and going into trying to develop your weakness. So it's this battle between the two. Right now, I'm kind of at the point where I'm sort of just relying on my strengths lately. But I do push myself to grow musically, because it's important to challenge your brain and to fail, but also pick yourself back up, and that's how you grow. So that's the concise, background of my musical studies.
Thank you. Nick Weiser's here. He says, wow, the pianist can shred, which you can. One of the most beautiful things about being married to you is in the mornings when you're practicing on the baby grand piano. And it's like, is this a dream? Like, this is just really cool.
Except for when I'm
sometimes
hitting wrong notes, it's like,
I don't care. He gets self-conscious about sometimes when he's practicing. I'm like, do you understand what this is like for someone who's not a musician, just to walk through the house with this like beautiful soundtrack behind them? It's so relaxing. I love it. And then thank you, Davina. Robin Weigert plays Calamity Jane in that show. I appreciate that. She's great. Your average patriot nerd. Hello, says I haven't watched Deadwood, but I've been to the actual town. I want to go, especially now that I've seen this.
Yeah.
And then have a question for JR says, I'm usually injured when I play piano when the audience throws things at me.
You have to tell them not to. You said, please don't throw things at me.
And then AD Victorium says, it's beautiful. Can Anthony share a little about how he goes through his creative process?
Yeah. So a big part of the creative process is kind of away from the instrument for me. It's just being kind of walking around, and you have a song on your head, and then you kind of want to make sure that it's not somebody else's song, which is difficult to do. And then I'll just let sort of songs kind of, I could call it letting them marinate. Maybe if it sticks around in my head and it's bothering me and it's kind of just bugging me and persisting, then the next time I'm at an instrument, or I'm at, somewhere where I can have some time to think about it in a logical way, I'll sit down with an instrument and maybe make some notes. And sometimes, I guess, the way I look at songwriting or creating music is, and that means creating music of my own that I'm going to put on an album, compositions or songs. I guess I look at it as like a being that just continues to persist and continues to bother me and continues to like, pay attention to me. And those are the songs that I hang on to. And those are the songs that I spend time with, because if you sit down with a piece and you just improvise once and it goes into the ether, then that was great. That was a moment in time that you created this musical moment that maybe you and maybe some other people got to enjoy. And sometimes those moments happen in your mind when you're just walking around, and if they linger and they stick around, you develop them. And for me personally, that happens the majority of the time. There are other times where, for example, on this guitar album, where I'll have kind of what I call sound check pieces, where pieces that I just kind of like, mess around with, like to get to see how my guitar sounds in the PA and all that. And then they kind of just develop into something, and they kind of stick around in a different way, in a more like kinetic way, with the way my hands touch the instrument or the way that the chords shape my hands, and they kind of turn into songs. So there's not a real, I'm going to sit down and, with a pen and paper and write a song today. It's sort of just like taking notes of something that's happening all the time. And whenever I find time to make a note of it, then I do that, and I take notes until it comes time to actually record. And when it comes time to actually make the album, that's sort of a little bit of a process, because you're basically you're gathering all the notes that you've taken. I guess it's like writing a book or writing a paper or an essay. You take all your notes and you kind of get the best of, and you put them all down. You record them all. And then once you record them all, I'm at the point now where I'm having to go back and relearn my solos that I played, because I want to play exactly what I recorded, so that when I perform live, and people have heard the album, they can hear what I've done live. So there is that process of going back and relearning what you recorded, which kind of sounds weird, but that's the reality of it. So that's what happens with the process of the creative process.
What about when it doesn't come naturally, not naturally, but easily, like when you're struggling for writing maybe the lyrics portion or something, like, because you and I have talked about some of the similarities in writing. Some things are very different, but some things are similar in writing music or writing essays or a book, what have you. And it's like, is it sometimes similar where I find some things just flow out of me easy?
Yes.
Like the best essays I've ever written, I don't feel like they even necessarily, I didn't struggle with it. It just poured out of me. But then other times, if you're trying to develop, what's the word? Like a habit where you're like sitting down every day and writing, a lot of those times I'm like struggling, I'm forcing it. It feels like there's too much of me in it. And it's just like, oh, this isn't that great.
Yeah.
Do you ever have that?
I'd say that some of the songs when you're talking about songwriting, which is music and words, then it's a different, for me, that's a completely different story from just music alone. The music for me kind of comes very easily. That part's very easy for me. The hard part for me is, and I think this is what lyrics are a great equalizer, because we're all, all human beings are capable of writing lyrics or poetry, or expressing ourselves through words in whatever capacity we're able to express ourselves, and our and whatever, we're only confined by the limits of our vocabulary. So that's what puts us all on an equal playing field. And I find it most challenging to convey, what I want to concisely and with words, and accompany the music with those words, or have music accompany the words. So for me, I look at it as a songwriting with lyrics as, I guess, the way a sculptor would look at a piece of stone, or and the way I look at it is, I can see what I'm going for. In my mind, I know, and I can feel what I want to come out of this song. And I just keep chiseling away at it. And when it gets difficult, my human tendency is to just put it aside and just give up, because it's too hard. And I've done that many times. But the times when I had to push myself sometimes to really rise to the challenge and say, like, you have to do this. You have to stand up, not for any other reason other than the personal challenge, the challenge to myself, that I know there's a good song there. I know it's a good song by my standard, to my own satisfaction, that there's something there, and I know I have a good vision for it. And don't be afraid of what that vision is, because it's going to, I'm afraid, I think a lot of the fear that a lot of songwriters go through is that it's going to suck, and it's going to be cheesy, or it's going to not convey, it's going to be too over the top. Or it's going to fall short of the goal. It has to be precise and perfect. The song does. And, So that's kind of how I look at songwriting is sort of like chiseling away at something and finding it in the right way, finding that perfect, form, that perfect figure.
I people in the people in the chat are loving this. If you have more questions for Anthony, let me know. But I wanted to say thank you to WG for your generosity. He gave a $50 super chat.
Thank you for doing that. Thank you so much, WG.
Says, glad I found out about your music. I just downloaded your latest. Keep up the great work.
Thank you so much.
Very awesome. Thank you, sir. Actually, here at anthonygarciamusic.com, you can get links to buy the albums. They're both on Spotify, iTunes, elsewhere.
I need to update that.
Oh yeah, this part coming August 7th. It's
I
here.
I'm gonna update that later on today.
Moonlight. It looks like a really great photographer took this picture, huh?
Yeah, the photographer was it's an unknown photographer.
Oh really?
Yeah.
Unknown. I took that picture.
Oh.
Ow. I'm just thinking. Here, I've got a couple of other things.
It's the photographer's name is Keri Smith.
Keri
Smith.
Parable of the Tangent says the definition of a gentleman, someone who knows how to play the bagpipes but doesn't.
I've heard that quote. I thought it was Tom Waits and he said accordion, but it's really all interchangeable. I personally like the harmonica better. Is using it with the harmonica.
A person who knows how to play the harmonica but doesn't.
There's people that play the harmonica great, but let's not get into that.
AH, Keri's openness reminds me of Lex Friedman. I wonder if the two would make a good stream. Somebody, Robert, take a note of that, please. Or I should take a note of that. I don't have my pen. I don't know who Lex Friedman is. It sounds familiar though.
Yeah, he's great.
He's got a very
popular podcast right now, and I think he has like a background in science, and he's a really intelligent guy, and he's got a lot of really great takes. He's interviewed a lot of people that you listen to and that you like, and I think that a lot of you'll intersect on a lot of people.
Cool.
I think he had like Konstantin Kisin and like I think just a lot of people. Peter Boghossian, and like he was on Joe Rogan. He's like real good friends with Joe Rogan, and anyways, there's a lot of connection. There's a lot of intersection between the two of you.
Pirate Tomsky, that photographer is one of the little people. Anthony, sometime. I am one of the little people. Whenever I sometimes when I talk to Anthony about music, I tell him, look, I'm the voice of the common man.
As the common man,
I think you should do this. And he's like, I'm not going to listen to the common man today.
So there's somebody here that said they want you to talk about the Let Women Speak event. They must have missed the beginning of it.
Oh, hey, Linda. Yeah, I talked about it at the beginning. Just to recap, if you missed it, I said Michelle Evans did a great job organizing it, brought in lots of speakers, even from outside of Texas. It was a great crowd, and we had amazing security. The Wind Therapy Freedom Riders came, the bikers. They're amazing. The WTF riders. And we also had some off-duty cops, and so everybody felt very protected. I got to see my friend Libby Emmons. I got to see Mary Lou Singleton, who I love, Isabella Malbin, and Megan Murphy, and it was great. And I got to meet some people that I hadn't met yet, like Kay Yang and a couple of people who on Twitter who share their detransition experiences, like Laura Funk God, I think is what she goes by, and the one who got censored recently on Etsy. I met her, and Prisha, who's suing. Prisha, who had a double mastectomy at 15, and they're there to share their experiences. There were a lot of protesters who tried to drown us out, and in some cases did. And they were crazy, and they're always crazy. I did upload a couple of video clips on my social media if you want to see them. But one great takeaway was that I think there's a lot more people who are coming out to these kind of things now, which is great. There are people who are getting over their fear or past their fear and are willing to come out and support or even speak. I met some girls who spoke for the first time. It was great. And that's cool because I think the needle is moving, and I think it's important to get footage of how crazy that other anti-reality side is, because it helps to wake people up to see that. It's emotionally like, any sane person sees that and is like, I don't want to be a part of that. Those people don't represent me. They're freaking batshit crazy. So yeah. Yeah, you're welcome, Linda. Oh, nerdy girl, Kay Yang is awesome. Yes, I loved meeting Kay Yang, and we're totally going to do something together. We talked a lot afterwards. I didn't know she goes by, or used to go by, she said she quit, but she used to go by the Deprogrammer, and our show is called Deprogrammed, so that was kind of cool. And I have a bunch of her stickers. I plan to sticker Europe with them. I'm going to tell her a bunch of her stickers criticizing gender ideology. But yeah, I really liked her a lot. Okay, Anthony,
Yes.
got some more music questions for you, and then
Okay.
we'll wrap it up because I know we got to get out of here soon. Okay. Any thoughts about how Texas swing influenced Dimebag Darrell?
No, I don't have any thoughts about that.
I don't know
never
what
heard-
that means.
Well, I mean, I don't know. I don't really know much about Dimebag Darrell. So Dimebag Darrell was the guitarist for Pantera. I don't know if you know who the band
Oh.
Pantera is, but they were
Yeah, I do.
Yeah. Okay. So, he was the guitarist for Pantera. They're from Dallas. And I mean, maybe they were influenced by Bob Wills. I mean, they probably were in some way. I'm sure they were, but I don't know. I can't draw a connection between those two. I mean, not very similar in styles, but I'm sure they're similar in the same spirit. I mean, I'm sure they both have, like, I don't know, artistically, they were both reaching for something. They were reaching for something new, and they were, doing something that gained popularity in their home state and even broader. So, and they both represent Texas. So I guess those are the similarities, but I don't know any stylistically. I couldn't draw a line between those two. I mean, yeah, I'm at a loss.
Oh, sorry, I'm muted. WG says you guys need merch. I need a concert t-shirt. Dude, we are working on merch now. I know people have been asking for Deprogrammed merch for a while, and I'm sorry it's taken me this first year of launching the new podcast. I was telling some of the folks who helped me out, like Pirate and Two Sisters and Some Yarn, Robert, Cheeky Mare. I was like, the first year I feel like I was kind of just getting my sea legs, like even battling the confidence thing of like, can I do this by myself? And yeah, I can. And now I've done it by myself, and now I'm focusing on building out the fellowship, the community, whatever you want to call it. And we are working on some merch designs, and so is Anthony.
Mhm.
Anthony has bookmarks. If you read old-fashioned paper books, does anybody? And when we're at his shows, I like saying when people come up to the merch table, I'm like, do you read books, like old-fashioned books with paper? And they're like, yeah. But it's so like young people don't, a lot of them. So it's funny. But yeah, you're
Yeah.
working on some designs.
Yeah, just doing some new stuff that I'll probably do once we get back. I'm going to spend some time doing more of that, getting it finished. But
Pirate says, oh no, Pirate says sea legs are. Pirate, do you know that Anthony will sometimes try to do your accent because he's better at accents than me? I can't do it.
You are supposed to tell him that. Keri. How's Tiger? Are you watching Deadwood? Keri.
Pirate, do you find that convincing? He says Yorkshire.
Yorkshire. I don't know how you say that, but he'd probably Keri. Oh, good in Yorkshire.
Sorry, it
He
makes me
knows that's
laugh.
exactly how he talks. He knows it.
That's
I
an
don't even want to.
That's American's interpretation. Therese, OMG, I'm dying. He sounds like him.
Yeah.
Actually, to me, to an American, it sounds pretty accurate. No comment.
That's right. Keri, no comment.
Well, I
No comment.
can't do any accent, so I'm not gonna try. I can only do Southern, which that's what I learned as a baby.
Tell your hubby to shut his yap.
He's probably laughing at you because he's like, "This is a dumb American interpretation."
Listen to
Um,
that Yankee.
Okay, here's a question. Anthony, how's that cot in the barn? I don't know what is that an inside joke? Is that somebody I don't get it.
How's the cot in the barn? Okay.
Oh, is that a reference to my parody album that's coming out? Okay.
Nice segue.
I wrote a song called Cattle in Her Barn, and it's a country
That he has
song.
to put his cattle in
His
her
cattle
barn.
in her barn. You know, it's like an old-timey euphemism country
what?
song where it just means putting cattle in the barn.
Okay. Shut your gob, Keri. That's what he says. Shut your gob, Keri.
No. Andrew Joyner says, "Good kudos for the effort, for the accent, your accent."
There's no effort.
Yeah, I have and again, this is primarily just to make my husband laugh. I occasionally write parody songs. And then I'll ask you, why don't you do that song? Like in seriousness, but not really because of course not. So the other song is Good Morning, It's Tiger. You could probably sing that song by now. I've sung it enough.
Mhm.
Good morning, it's Tiger. Cattle in the barn, good deal at the Goodwill. And there's a few others. So if you're in the Deprogrammed, if you like the comedy stuff, that just like the fun, frivolous stuff we do, that is going to be out, and you'll be able to get these terrible parody songs. Pirate says, "I'm suing Anthony for copyright infringement on my voice." Before we go, why don't you tell, for anyone who's interested, some of the places you're interested in visiting when we're in Europe.
Okay. So while we're in Europe, I'm going to go, while we're in Munich. So as you know, Keri, and maybe other people don't know, I'm very, very interested in art history. And I kind of spend a lot of time reading about that. And so one of the places I want to go to is a day trip to Nuremberg, where the famous artist Albrecht Dürer is from, and he was a painter, and he was an artist. Sorry, he was an artist from like the 1500s, around that time, pretty close to around when the printing press was invented. And he was just a prodigy, genius, a real innovator of everything. Like, he was an innovator of technique. And like I said, came around the time when printing was starting to become popular. So a lot of his prints, he drew for a lot of prints. And he just made a lot of breakthroughs and had so much talent. And I've just kind of been fascinated by his art for a while. So we're going to go there. Some of the other places I want to go to are, of course, some of the museums in Paris that I've already been to, but I'm going to go back to this time around.
I've never been to Paris.
Right. We're, of course, going to go to the Louvre, but I'm going to go back to the Musée d'Orsay, which used to be an old train station back in the mid 1800s that now houses, not exclusively, but the third floor is dedicated to the Impressionists. And so that's which I'm actually reading a book right now about Montmartre and all the Impressionists And also, I want to go to the Rodin Museum, which is in Paris. Which it's his old Rodin is, of course, the sculptor who did The Thinker, but he just had immense talent, and his house was he donated his house to the state in exchange for the promise that his house would always be a museum. And so it's a mansion. Essentially, it's like a 2-story mansion on garden grounds. It's not massive garden grounds like Versailles, but it's similar in style. It's on a smaller scale. And all his sculptures are several of his statues and bronze sculptures are out in the garden, including the Gates of Hell, which was inspired by the Inferno, Dante's Inferno. It's incredible. I mean, you just stand there and just look at all the figures that are carved there. Also, or that he made there. So those are the places I would like to go in Paris, and then of course in Amsterdam. I didn't get to go see the Van Gogh Museum last time, and I'd like to go back and see that, and maybe even the Rijksmuseum. The Rijksmuseum is the big museum in Amsterdam that I went to last year, but you weren't there, so we can probably go there too, which is really amazing. I just love museums, so those are the main things I want to hit.
And we're going to Versailles.
And Versailles, of course, yeah.
Look at all these pictures.
Yeah, Versailles is amazing.
Is that on the screen? Can people see that? It looks incredible. Anthony, you guys know we're renovating this old house. And in designing the backyard garden, Anthony's already sketched out plans for what he wants it to look like. And he's like, it's going to be like Versailles. No, I'm kidding.
Well, I've already done like patterns and stuff like that and drawn pictures of how I want it to look. And it's going to be just like that. Someone said something here. What were they saying?
Look at this room. This is the color of our music parlor, the red. I love that red and gold. What did somebody say?
Oh yeah, someone said Dion said when we went to Germany, we went to visit all the Mad King Ludwig castles, and so yeah, in the south of Germany near Munich, there's a little town called Füssen, and that's where the Neuschwanstein Castle and the other castle. I think those are the ones you're referring to, and we're definitely gonna go there too because we're staying in Munich for the first week or so. So we'll definitely be making a trip down there. I haven't been there since not like the 90s when I was an exchange student in Germany. I was an exchange student in Germany for a year or so, back from 96 to 97. But I haven't been to those particular castles since then. So I thought that would be really cool to go visit as well again. Other than that, I can't really think of any other things I want to see there.
Well, Davina says if there's time, it would be nice to attend a royal Concertgebouw orchestra in Amsterdam.
Yeah, that'd be cool. Also, there's a Bach Society in Amsterdam, the Netherlands Bach Society, and I love their YouTube channel because they're dedicated to making high quality video recordings of top musicians in the world performing all of Bach's work. That's like the goal of the channel, is to by the time that they're finished, they're going to have recorded every single piece that Bach ever wrote, and which is insane, an insane feat. But yeah, the Concertgebouw would be a great. That'd be cool. I'll check that out. I'd like to go check out one of those concerts.
AH says you guys have acreage. No, our backyard is not going to be the size of Versailles.
We're gonna have like a little path that leads to like where there's a statue, and then there's gonna be some shrubs.
It's like Versailles, but
and I'll
very
be like,
tiny.
Well, I went to Versailles once, and I got inspired to make this backyard here.
You know how in Texas there's all these towns named after, like there's Paris, Texas, there's Palestine, Texas, there's all these different towns named after places in Europe. Is there a Versailles, Texas? I
don't know. There should be.
Very important question, Kendra. Hey, Kendra, Keri, how do you pick your hats? Or are you just going to wear a beret? That's a great question. Because I love hats and traveling. I usually do take a beret. That's easy. I'm going to take the flat cap that Pirate Tomsky gave me, and because that's easy. And then I usually take one. I'm probably taking the straw one. I just wear it. I also have a really beautiful vintage hat box that Anthony got me for Christmas. like one of the travel ones in a piece of luggage. She got me an old vintage luggage set, but if I took that, I would have to sacrifice my other carry-on bag. So I'm not going to bother with a box. I'm just going to wear it. And then when I'm in the airplane seat, I just have it on my lap, I don't take more than one. That's too difficult when traveling, but I always take one. Anthony's bringing his also. What else? Therese, there's some good yarn shops in Amsterdam, Keri. Well, if there's something you want me to visit, message me. I will check in with you ladies. And then Adam says, will you be joining the mostly peaceful protests, Anthony?
Probably not. I've heard that those are happening like out on the outskirts of Paris. I've messaged some friends that live there, and they've assured me that none of it's happening in the central parts where we're going to be. So, yeah, I think it's happening like in the suburbs, or not the suburbs, but the what are they? I don't know. The outskirts.
The outskirts.
Take a burqa. Very trendy in Europe, from what I
Oh,
understand.
this is what the hat I'm wearing on the plane. I mean, when we first get to Paris, I'm wearing my American. I'm joking. I'm not.
Awesome. Isn't it illegal to wear a head scarf in France?
Is it?
I don't know. Somebody can probably tell us in chat. I thought I heard that it was illegal, or they outlawed it, or it was outlawed for some time.
I haven't heard that, but tell us if you know that. We're probably going to take off here soon, just do end it a little short, because I have many things I have to do here before we leave. So a little stress in getting those done. But if you have any final questions, let us know. Thank you so much for hanging out. If I missed anything, let me know. And thank you for the super chats.
People are saying beaches. That's where it's outlawed. I thought they were saying beaches like Bette Midler.
Yeah.
So it's outlawed on beaches.
You can't wear a burqa on a beach? Burqa on a Beach is a great sounding band name.
That needs to go on your album.
Burqa on a Beach. I've got my notes open right
but
here.
It needs to be like a Mexican dude that's singing it. I saw a burqa on a beach.
No.
She was wearing a burqa. I saw a burqa on a beach.
She wore an itsy bitsy teeny weeny burqa on the beach in Fiji.
Yeah,
no?
Well, I'm just trying to think.
Itsy bitsy teeny weeny burqa on a beach in. What's the word? What's the city? Fill it in. Okay. Robert Lowry, thank you so much, sir. Just have a great working vacation, Keri and Anthony. We will. Anthony's working because he's playing a lot of shows. I'm going to be trying to do some live shows there. It depends on what the internet is like, where we're at. But I'm uploading, before we go, several pre-recorded episodes. I've got interviews coming out with Shagsworth, and who you guys know probably from the Midweek Hump. I love Shags. And then I've got an interview with Cassandra. She Starzan is what she goes by on Twitter. All about the woke part of woke that is known as the body positivity or fat acceptance movement. And that was fascinating, because she's the first person I've talked to who was in that part of woke, and talking about how toxic it's gotten. I really enjoyed talking with her. And then we have a couple of pre-recorded pop culture episodes with special guests. We've got one about British comedy that's going to be coming out with Neil James from Blocked Magazine. And we've got one with Comics Division, all about diversity in comics, both pre and post woke ideology. We have one on masculinity in film. So there's going to be some stuff I'm uploading that's already done. But yeah, I'll let you guys know. I'll check in when we get abroad. And again, I hope I get to see some of you in some of these countries. So Pirate, I feel dissed. Oh, we're going to do a separate one with you, my fella. Don't you worry. We've got to do, we only did British comedy. We have to do one on British drama. Anyway, this was really fun. Thanks for hanging out. If you like the show, please consider hitting like, sharing it, or leaving a comment. That helps us with the algorithm. And if you want to support Deprogrammed, you can do so here at YouTube by becoming a member, or at Locals, Subscribestar, or Patreon. Hope you guys have a great week, and we'll see you later. Oh, Z says Starzan is a friend of Gothic's. Yeah, she is. We talked about that a little bit. Thank you, Parable of the Tangents, for $10. Thank you for the super chat. Oh, you're the one that left us the quote about the bagpipes. How funny. We saw that quote in a shop once. You know, a gentleman is someone who knows how to play, as you said, the accordion, but doesn't. Okay. Bye-bye, guys. See you
Bye, y'all.
later. Bye.